Dumfries è solo, Lautaro, rete! Ha segnato l'Inter!
This is the Pazza Inter podcast, where we talk passion, tactics, victories, heartbreak, and everything in between. Because with Inter, it's never just football. Vamos! Vamos! Ciao my people, and welcome to the Pazza Inter podcast. I'm your host, DJ Nick, coming at you from Milan, the home of the boys in black and blue, and today we'll be giving you a preview of Inter's upcoming game at home on Easter Sunday against Gasperini and of course Roma. So getting into it, this is not just another game, this will be a test. Because after dropping points against Fiorentina, like we talked about in our previous episode, Inter don't just need to play well. Inter need to win. It's simple as that. Now, Roma are a very tricky opponent. They are organised, they're aggressive, and they know how to make games difficult. They don't always try to dominate. They are very comfortable sitting deep, staying compact, and then hitting you on the counter-attack. And that's exactly where Inter need to be careful. Because we've seen it already. When Inter go ahead but don't kill the game, they leave space, they lose control, and the opponent grows into the match. Against Roma, that is very dangerous. So tactically, this game is going to be about patience and especially control. Inter need to move the ball quickly, use the width with Dumfries and Di Marco, and create chances early. But more importantly, if Inter score first, they have to, and I will say this again, have to manage the game way better than they did against Fiorentina. Midfield is definitely going to be a key battle. Barella's energy, Çalhanoğlu's control, and the overall balance of the team. That's where this game will be decided. And then in attack, we need efficiency badly. No wasted chances, no missed opportunities, because in games like this, you might only get 2 or 3 real chances, and you have to take them. So the question once again is not about quality, because Inter have quality in spades. The question, as I mentioned about earlier last week, is about mentality. Do Inter play a team chasing the title, or a team ready to win it? Because this is the kind of game where champions send a very clear message to their opposition. Beat Roma, take the 3 points, and put pressure on everyone else. Anything less, and suddenly the pressure comes back on us, i.e. Inter. So, let's take a look at the lineup I expect Inter to go with against Roma on Sunday. In goal, Sommer, reliable, calm, and very important in build-up play. In defence, Bastoni, if he's healthy, on the left, Akanji in the centre, and Bisic on the right. Bastoni is of course crucial because of his passing and his ability to bring the ball forward. He's not just defending, he is starting Inter's attacks. On the wings, as I mentioned earlier, Dumfries on the right and Di Marco on the left. These two are key to Inter's system. They provide width, crosses and energy, and they can push Roma back into their own half. In midfield, the bad boys, Barella, Çalhanoğlu and Zielinski. This midfield needs to control the game, move the ball quickly, and not allow Roma to slow the tempo too much. Up front, I'm assuming we'll likely see Marcus and Pio Esposito, and Thuram's movement and physicality combined with Esposito's confidence and finishing could be very important in this game. There is another player I hope to see, but we'll get to him later. On paper, I think this is a strong Inter team. The key will be not just how they start the game, but how they manage the game, especially if they go in front. Now, let's talk about the key battles that could decide Inter against Roma. First battle, Inter's wing-backs against Roma's wide players. Dumfries and Di Marco need to push Roma back, because if they're forced to defend too much, Inter lose one of their biggest attacking weapons. Second battle, Barella in midfield. His energy and pressing can disrupt Roma's build-up play, and if Barella controls the midfield, Inter control the game. Third battle, I'd say Inter's defense against Roma on the counter-attack. Roma are very dangerous when they break quickly, especially with people like Malin, and Inter must stay compact and not leave too much space behind the defense. And finally, the most important battle, I can't stress this enough, boys and girls, mentality. Because at this stage of the season, the difference between winning and drawing, or even losing, is not just tactics or quality. It's concentration, focus, and above all, mentality. Alright, so time for some hot takes, for some predictions. I think this will be a very difficult game. Roma are organised and dangerous, but Inter are the stronger team on paper and they are playing at home. So I'm going to say Inter 2, Roma 1. A tough game, maybe not a perfect performance, but 3 very important points. Also looking at the title race, because this weekend there's also another big game which we talked about last week, Milan against Napoli. And this is what I call a perfect result game for Inter, because Milan and Napoli are playing each other, which means at least one of them is going to drop points, right? Maybe both, if the game ends in a draw. This is exactly why Inter must win against the Roma, because when your rivals play each other, that is the moment you can gain points and create distance in the table. If Inter win and Milan and Napoli draw, that's a big weekend for us. If Inter win and one of them loses, that's also a big weekend for us. But this only matters if Inter do their job first. Because let's be honest, there's no point looking at Milan and Napoli if Inter don't win their own game. So the situation is very simple. Inter must win. And then we watch Milan against Napoli and see who drops points in the title race. Elsewhere in the Serie A, you have Juventus playing Genoa, and this is the kind of game that Juventus usually win. Not always, and it's often not always exciting, but they do tend to win these. So Inter should expect Juventus to take 3 points and not rely on them dropping points in this match. And then Como play Udinese. Como are in great form and full of confidence, and they're becoming a very dangerous team, especially at home. They're one of those teams that can surprise bigger clubs, as we've seen, if you underestimate them. So overall, this weekend could change the table, but only if Inter win first. Everything starts with Inter doing their job against Roma. Now, a big question which has been, I know, on a lot of Inter fans' minds, and me included, is the possible return of our wonderful captain, Lautaro Martinez. So if Lautaro is fit and ready to play, that does change a lot. Because Lautaro is not just a goal scorer, he is the charismatic leader. He presses, he fights, and he gives Inter personality in attack. If he starts, Inter have more movement, more finishing, and more experience in big games. If he's not ready to start, then maybe he comes off the bench, and that could also be very important, because having Lautaro come on in the second half against a possibly tired defense is a huge advantage. So this is something we have to watch very closely before the game, because Lautaro's presence can really change Inter's attack. I would say that even if he's only, say, 70% fit, this is the kind of player you want on the pitch in these games. So crossing fingers that Lautaro, of course, will return to the pitch this coming Sunday on Easter Sunday would be a nice little gift on Easter, of course. And hopefully everybody else will bring their A game to this very, very important match. And now we come to a little segment on this podcast, which I like to call Nerazzurri Legends. Players who have really shaped the history of our beloved Black and Blue club. And I think there's no better place to start than Mr. Giuseppe Meazza. Giuseppe Meazza, for those who don't know, was not just a great player. He was one of the first superstars of Italian football. I mean, he played for Inter in the 30s and became the symbol of the club. Heck, the stadium has his name on it. He scored hundreds of goals, won multiple league titles, and was the star of the Italian national team that won the World Cup in 34 and 38. He was very much known for his incredible technique, his creativity and personality. He was quite popular with the ladies too. He wasn't just a goal scorer, he was an entertainer. I mean, people went to the stadium, my grandfather included, to watch him, the way people today watch the biggest stars in the world. And that's why the San Siro Stadium is officially called Stadio Giuseppe Meazza, because he wasn't just a player. This man was a legend who defined an era of Inter, and I will also say Italian football. So when we talk about Inter history, about the identity of this club, about greatness, Giuseppe Meazza is one of the names that built that history. And I think every time Inter play at San Siro, remember folks, that stadium carries the name of one of the greatest Nerazzurri of all time. So, that's it for today's episode of the Pazza Inter podcast. Remember, of course, with Inter, it's never easy, it's never calm, and especially, it's never boring, but we would not have it any other way. Here's hoping we can take 3 points against Roma. Share the podcast, of course, with a fellow Interista, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for listening. I have been your Italian DJ Nick, and as always, Forza Inter. Vamos!